Welcome to Simpler Bible, a daily journey to biblical understanding. Here we are, part 2 of Job, part 2, and I'm calling this one Job's Words. And so, look, Job is going to say some stuff, his friends are going to say some stuff back, Job's going to respond to his friends, another friend's going to chime in, Job's going to talk again, and it's just easier for us to kind of look at all of Job's words collectively. So we've got about 5 chapters today of Job's words, a lot here that we're going to cover, because I couldn't narrow it down any more than that. There are just too many things that I love from what Job says, but it also gives us a lot of insight into him. Now remember, he was blameless, he was righteous, he had not sinned with his mouth, and then 7 days later he opened his mouth, and it gets pretty bad from there. He doesn't say great things. So we got a lot to read today. Jump in with me. Job chapter 9, beginning in verse 1. Job answered his friend and said, "Truly I know that it is so." His friends have said, by the way, "You're guilty, you must be guilty. God wouldn't do this if you weren't guilty." So truly I know that it's so, but how can a man be right before God? If one wished to contend with God, one could not answer him once in 1,000 times. In other words, if God says you're guilty, what can you do about it? You can't argue with God about it. He is wise in heart and mighty in strength, who has hardened himself against God and succeeded. Like, you can't go against God and win. He is the one who removes mountains and they know it not, and he overturns them in his anger. He's the one who shakes the earth out of its place and its pillars tremble. He's the one who commands the sun and it does not rise, and he seals up the stars, who alone stretched out the heavens and trampled the waves of the sea, who made the bear and the Orion and the Pleiades and the chamber of the south, all the stars and the constellations, who does great things beyond searching out and marvelous things beyond number. Behold, God passes by me and I see him not. He moves on, but I don't perceive it. Behold, he snatches away, and who can turn him back? And who would say to him, "What are you doing?" In other words, Job's going, I can't bring an argument to God. I don't have anything to say to God. What could I possibly do? He controls the stars and the mountains and the seas. Like, how could I argue my case with God? God will not turn back his anger. Beneath him bow the helpers of Rahab. How then can I answer him? By choosing my own words with him. Though I am in the right, I cannot answer him. I must appeal for mercy to my accuser. He's calling God his accuser. He does not know that Satan's behind it. If I summoned him and he answered me, I would not believe that he was listening to my voice. Look at how sad that is. Do you remember back over in, what was it? It's Psalm 18, maybe, Psalm 18 and 2 Samuel 22, or I might have that backwards. I switch that sometimes, but it's the same psalm in both places where David wrote, and he said, "My enemies oppressed me, my enemies came against me, and I cried out to the Lord, and what? The Lord heard my cry, and he roused himself to me, and he came to my aid." So Job says, even if I called out to God, he wouldn't. I don't believe that he would listen to me. I don't believe he'd hear me. What a sad position to be in. And then he goes on to say, "For God crushes me with a tempest and multiplies my wounds without cause. He will not let me catch my breath, but fills me with bitterness. If it's a contest of strength, behold, he's mighty. If it's a matter of justice, who can summon him? Though I am in the right, my own mouth would condemn me. And though I am blameless, he would prove me perverse. I am blameless. I regard not myself. I hate my life. It is all one. Therefore I say, he destroys the blameless and the wicked." So Job is going, God destroys the blameless and the wicked. We should look back to Genesis 18, where Abraham asked that question, will you really destroy the righteous with the wicked? And what is God's answer to him? No, I wouldn't do that. Job is misunderstanding God, but now he's turning, that mouth that hadn't spoken wicked of God is now turning accusations against God. He destroys the righteous and the wicked. If I called out to him, he wouldn't answer. If it's a contest of strength, he wins. He's better than me. He's stronger than me. He controls the mountains. He controls the stars. What can I possibly say about it? Even though I'm right, he'll say that I'm wrong. That's where Job is right now. And it's so funny to me because I hear so many people preach Job and they're like, and Job is so great. He never sinned against God, never charged God with fault. He literally is charging God with fault. God will rebuke him later and say, we'll get to this, spoilers, but God's words, he'll say to Job, will you really condemn me so that you can be justified? Like, will you make me the bad guy? So he's condemning God. He goes on to say in verse 23 of this chapter, when disaster brings sudden death, God mocks at the calamity of the innocent. Does God mock the innocent? Does God mock the destruction of the innocent? No. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covers the face of its judges. If it's not God, then who is it? My days are swifter than a runner. They flee away. My days see no good. They go by like skips of reed, like an eagle swooping on the prey. If I say, I will forget my complaint, I will put off my sad face and be of good cheer. I become afraid of all my suffering, for I know you will not hold me innocent. I shall be condemned. Why then do I labor in vain? Sound a little bit like Solomon there, doesn't he? If I wash myself with snow, if I cleanse my hands with lye, yet you will plunge me into the pit, and my own clothes will hate me. For God is not a man as I am, that I might answer him, that we should come to trial together. And look at what he says here. There is no arbiter between us who might lay his hand on us both. There's no one between us who might lay his hand on us both. There's no mediator. 1 Timothy, the Bible tells us that there is one mediator between man and God, the man Jesus Christ. Jesus is the mediator between us and God. And so he says there's no arbitrator between us, but he doesn't know yet that Christ is and will be that. Let him take his rod away from me. Let not dread of him terrify me. Then I would speak without fear of him, for I am not so in myself. He continues to say in Job 10, I loathe my life. I will give free utterance to my complaint. I will speak in the bitterness of my soul. I will say to God, do not condemn me. Let me know why you contend against me. Does it seem good to you to oppress, to despise the work of your hands, to favor the design of the wicked? Do you have eyes of flesh? Do you see as a man sees? Are your days like the days of a man? Are your years like a man's years, that you seek out my iniquity and search for my sin, although you know that I'm not guilty and there's none to deliver out of your hand? Your hands fashioned me and you made me, and now you've destroyed me altogether. Do you hear Job's angst and his frustration and his anger being directed towards God? He said, did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese? You clothed me with skin and flesh. You knit me together with bones and sinews. You have granted me life and steadfast love, and your care has preserved my spirit. Yet these things now you have hidden in your heart. I know that this was your purpose. If I sin, you watch me, and you don't acquit me of my iniquity. If I'm guilty, woe to me. If I'm in the right, I can't lift up my head, for I am filled with disgrace, and I look upon my affliction. You can just see the hopelessness of Job. Jump down here to Job 14. He says this, man who is born of woman is few of days and full of trouble. He comes out like a flower and withers. This is found for us in Isaiah. This is found for us in 1 Peter. This is found for us in James 4, that man's days are short, that we're like a vapor, that we're like the grass that is here today and gone tomorrow. He says, man flees like a shadow and continues not. And do you open your eyes on such a one and bring me into judgment with you? So he's calling out to God. His friends are rebuking him. And he's like, the problem here is with God. God messed up. I'm innocent. Why is God doing this? Job goes on to say, who can bring a clean thing out of an unclean thing? There is not one. And again, he is just beautifully hinting at Jesus. Who could stand between man and God to intercede for him? Jesus. Who can make a clean thing out of an unclean thing? Jesus. The oldest historical book of the Bible has all these things that are pointing to Christ, and it's beautiful. And he says this, since man's days are determined, and the number of his months is with you, and you have appointed his limits so that he cannot pass, turn away from man, leave him alone so that he can enjoy like a hired hand his day. For there is hope for a tree if it's cut down, that it will sprout again, and that its shoots will not cease. Though its root grow old in the earth and its stump die in the soil, yet at the scent of water it will bud and put forth branches like a young plant. So he says, if you take a tree and you cut it down, there's at least a chance that the tree will grow again. But if you cut down man, he's dead. He's like, my goodness, look what he says. But if a man dies and is laid low, man breathes his last. And where is he? As water fails from the lake and a river wastes away and dries up, a man lies down and rises not up again until the heavens are no more. He will not awake or be aroused out of his sleep. Now this is super interesting. And he says, oh, that you would hide me in Sheol, the grave, that you would consume me until your wrath be past, and you would appoint me a set time, and you would remember me. So this has beautiful end times implication. He says a man lies down, and where is he? He lies down, and he will not awake or be roused out of his sleep until when? Until the heavens and the earth are no more. And so that gives us an idea of over in 1 Peter, right? Where he talks about the heavens and the earth being destroyed. And then he talks about, golly, I always confuse that. I always confuse that. And I know that I got it wrong the last time I told you this, if it was 1 Peter or 2 Peter. So now here I am, stuck. I got to do this. And so 2 Peter. 2 Peter chapter 3. See, it's a good thing that I checked. So 2 Peter chapter 3, he talks about this present heavens and earth are going to be destroyed, and he's going to make a new heavens and a new earth. And so he says, man will be roused from his sleep when that happens. If a man dies, shall he live again? All the days of my service I would wait till my renewal should come. And so jump down here to Job 19. I love this. This also has future-reaching implications to Christ and the return of Christ. Job 19. Then Job answered and said, how long will you torment me and break me in pieces with words? He's saying that to his friends who have been insulting him. These 10 times you have cast reproach upon me. Are you not ashamed to wrong me? And even if it's true that I have erred, my error remains with myself. If indeed you magnify yourselves against me, he's talking to his friends, and you make my disgrace an argument against me, know then that God has put me in the wrong and closed his net about me. Behold, I cry out violence, but I'm not answered. I call for help, but there's no justice. He has walled up my way, now God he's talking about, so that I cannot pass, and he has set darkness upon my paths. He has stripped from me my glory and taken away the crown from my head, which is not true, but anyway, he breaks me down on every side, and I am gone. My hope he has pulled up like a tree. He has kindled his wrath against me and counts me as his enemy. Also not true. His troops come on together. They have cast up their siege ramps against me, and they encamp around my tent. He has put my brothers far from me, and those who knew me are now fully estranged from me. My relatives have failed me. My close friends have forgotten me. His 3 buddies that are around him, he's like, you guys have forgotten me. The guests in my house and my maidservants count me as a stranger. I have become a foreigner in their eyes. I call to my servant, but he gives me no answer. He's only got about 4 of those left. I must plead with him with my mouth for mercy. My breath is loathsome to my wife. I'm a stench to the children of my own mother. So my siblings find me stinky. My wife hates my breath. Even young children despise me when I rise. They talk against me. All my close friends hate me, and those who loved me have turned against me. My bones stick to the skin and to my flesh, and I have escaped by the skin of my teeth. Have mercy on me, O you, my friends, for the hand of God has touched me. Why do you, like God, pursue me? Why are you not satisfied with my flesh? Oh, that my words were written. Oh, that they were inscribed in a book. Oh, that with an iron pen and lead they were engraved in the rock forever. And then listen to what he says. I love this. For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will take a stand upon the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall behold my God. So he says, you guys are terrible friends. God has set himself against me. He goes, but here's what I know. I know that my Redeemer lives, and on the last day he will take a stand on the earth. And even though my body has been destroyed, yet in my body I will see him. And I believe with all my heart that this is a reference to the coming of Jesus, the second coming of Jesus. I believe that this is a reference to Job having the old body, the body of flesh and blood, which has come to nothing. And yet, even though his body has been destroyed, he will stand in a new body before the Lord. This is about the resurrection from the dead. This is 1 Corinthians 15. This is the new body, the resurrected body standing before Christ. And he says, let me read it again, beginning in verse 25. I know that my Redeemer lives. I know that at the last he will take a stand upon the earth. And after my skin has thus been destroyed, yet in my flesh shall I see God, whom I will see for myself. My eye shall behold and not another. How my heart faints or yearns within me. So he's going, man, I long for that. I long for the day that I will see my Redeemer take a stand upon the earth. I long the day that I will behold him in my flesh, even though this body will be brought to nothing. If you say, how will we pursue him? The root of the matter is found in him. Be afraid of the sword, for wrath brings the punishment of the sword, that you may know that there is a judgment. One more chapter, Job 26. Then Job answered and said, how have you helped him, speaking to his friends, who has no power? How have you saved the arm that has no strength? How have you counseled him who has no wisdom, and plentifully declared sound knowledge? With whose help have you uttered these words? Whose breath has come out of you? The dead tremble under the waters and their inhabitants. Sheol, the grave, is naked before God, and Abaddon has no covering. And then listen to these verses. This is talking about the majesty and the power of God. God, he stretches out the north over the void and hangs the earth on nothing. I love this imagery. And it's like, if you can imagine that God has the earth in his hands and he just like suspends it in space and it just hangs there on nothing. He binds up the waters in the thick clouds, and the clouds are not split under them. And so he takes the rain and he wraps them in the clouds and he places them in the sky, and the clouds don't burst under the weight of the rains. He covers the face of the full moon and spreads over it his cloud. And so the moon is done away with and made new as he just covers it. He inscribed on the circle of the face of the waters at the boundary between light and darkness. The pillars of heavens tremble and are astounded at his rebuke as they thunder, right? By his power, he stilled the sea. By his understanding, he shattered Rahab, the enemy of God, sometimes used in the Bible to speak of Egypt. By his wind, the heavens were made fair. His hand pierced the fleeing serpent, probably a reference to the devil. Behold, these are but the outskirts of his ways, and a small whisper or a faint whisper do we hear of him, but the thunder of his power, who could possibly understand? Here's what I love. Listen. If you can understand how God suspends the earth on nothing, if you can understand how he wraps the clouds or wraps the rain in the clouds, if you can understand how the moon goes in its course, and if you can understand all of these things that have happened, you have only understood the faintest whisper of his ways. You have only understood the edges of his garments. It's a faint whisper we know of him, and he says, who could understand his mighty rumblings? Who could understand his mighty thunder? In other words, if you understand all that creation can reveals about God, you've still only caught the whisper of him. And that is what Job recognizes about the Lord. And he says, look, he goes, he's bigger than me, he's stronger than me, he's mightier than me. And that kind of gives us a really good summary of how Job views the Lord. And it is amazing, and I love it. And he has so many things that reference and foreshadow Christ. It is beautiful. And so next time you read through the book of Job, maybe try reading it like that. Read all of Job's statements. Read all of his friends' statements. But tomorrow, let's look at what his friends have to say. It is not brilliant, but we'll go and look at what they have to say, and join me then. Have a great day. Thank you so much for journeying with us today at Simpler Bible. Together, you and I have looked at another passage of Scripture and come to know the Bible a little bit better and enjoy God more fully. This video, along with all of our videos, can be found at simplerbible.com, where you can enjoy our Through the Bible in a Year course. You can also enjoy a wealth of resources, blog posts that take you a little bit deeper into the text, a Bible study format that you can use with your small groups or your family, and we're creating new content all the time, all with the commitment to help us be people who know and enjoy God more fully. Thank you so much for being part of it, and we can't wait to see you next time.